Basically what happened is these Scottish brothers came over in the 1770s who had built these machines in Britain and just started building them here. So it's just like if you're an auto mechanic over in Great Britain, you can do the same thing over here. They just came over here and did the same thing. So the first machine we're going to run the wool through is the picker over here. When we first get the sheep's wool from you, it's going to be in a very dense fleece, like this. All knotted up, and we can't actually run that through the carding engines right here. We'll jam them up. So we're going to run through the picker first, which is essentially a wooden drum with heavy iron spikes. You can see that right there. So this turns at a much higher speed than the other engines will. And the idea is just to take the wool and break it up so it's not quite as dense and get it prepared so it can actually be run through the other machines and finished. So you run the wool through there first. Once it's done, you can then put it onto either one of these machines. Now, this one right here is essentially for the scrap wool, which is coming from the underside and the hindquarters of the sheep. It's a very short fiber that's not very good for spinning and weaving. So that would just be turned through here and turned into a wool batting, which you can use for stuffing quilts. You can use it for stuffing winter clothing for warmth, or a lot of times fashionable, really fancy clothing was stuffed in different areas to kind of emphasize the form. In the time period, the male form, the hourglass shape, was ideal. So a lot of the tailcoats and other things, and even vests, would often be padded in the chest to really fill out the form quite a bit. Women's clothing usually had big sleeve puffs and puffs in the caps and things like that, so that would often be padded as well to fill all that out. So that would be basically the scrap wool. This machine over here is going to take the better quality wool coming from the back and the sides of the sheep and turn it into a roll, like this. So it goes through getting combed out again and again and again, rolls out like that. All the fibers are running basically diagonally right now. You would then take that home and spin that. So that's your ideal wool coming off of your sheep. So it's going to be either one of the two machines, not both. So, to actually power these up, there's a lever over in the corner right here. When I push down on this, this is going to open up the head gate, allowing the water to flow into the mill. The bevel here, you can feel them down there. There's quite a bit of rumbling.
This is a
Alright, so we're not going to run this one because the lacing is all done. Or undone, I should say. Put that off to the side. Okay, so we'll just run this one right now until I can lace that one back up. So you can see right now the belt is turning on what's effectively the neutral gear on these machines. Just kind of a free spinning piece of wood. When I actually shift the belt over, that actually engages it. So the wool is slowly coming out of the feed apron on this side. It's going through a series of rollers. There's one major roller in the center, which is actually carrying the wool from one end of the machine to the other one. And then you have a series of smaller rollers. The larger ones right here are called workers. The smaller ones are called strippers. So the workers and strippers work together to basically, again, just comb this wool out as it goes through. The last one right here is what's called the fancy. It has very long wires on it. The idea here is to kind of get the nap on the wool before it actually gets sheared off by a very fine-tuned comb mounted on the back of this piece right here. Comes off essentially like a cobweb, as you can see, rolls around again and again and again until it gets to the thickness you actually want. Right now, that would be a fairly good thickness for a quilt. We can go up to 6 inches thick. Whether you want a quilt that thick or not, I really don't think you do. You'd probably be dead by morning by dehydration.